Hi everybody, FIDE Master Dennis Monokroussos here, and in this week's show we'll finish our recap of my games from the U.S. Amateur Team Tournament in February. Well, this is February, probably when you're first hearing this, maybe. Anyway, from this February, up in Chicago, and in the first show I presented my first three games, well, fragments, or in the case of my round 2 game, the whole game. And this time I'm going to show you some fragments from my 5th round game, and then I'll show the 4th round game in its entirety. The 4th round game was very exciting and had a lot of content to it. The final round game was also quite interesting, but I think we can kind of do with highlights there. So let me just skip ahead, in fact, to this position right here. So I was black. This was a von Hennig-Schara gambit in the Tarish defense. I've shown you guys some blitz games of mine before in this, I think. And at any rate, this is the position that arose after 18 moves. I'm black. My opponent was Stephen Rand, who's a low expert, high A player, so rated right around 2,000. He was having a bit of a bad tournament though, so he's fairly young, so I'm sure his rating is going to go up and get well past where it is right now. But for the moment, he's around 2,000, and again was kind of struggling at this point. So at this point, clearly, while I'm a pawn down, I've got a pretty dangerous initiative brewing on the king side. And in fact, I thought that I was, I didn't think at the moment of this, at this moment, I didn't think I was winning. But after the game, I thought that I was winning at this point. But I did miss a couple of things. So there are a couple of ways still for white to hang on here. Now, the first question is, can white play knight from g5 to e4? This is the move that I was initially worried about, and then I was really, really hoping I would see. But see what you can find there. So, can white play knight g to e4? What's going on there? Alright, well, I'm going to assume and hope that you guys stop the video for a while and try to figure things out. Now, knight g to e4 looks, it looks risky on the one hand, but appealing on the other, because if I have to retreat my bishop to keep it alive, if I have to play something like bishop to c7, well, then white has time to play h3, and he's kind of gotten everything he wants. Or he plays knight to d5, and really gives him time to consolidate. If I play a move like queen to h4, he just plays h3. I'm not sure if knight takes h2 works. I considered that a little bit, but I found something much better. And that's knight f3 check. And I hope you guys found this move. The first and most important point is that in case of g takes f3, queen h4 just forces mate. So he can stop the knight on g4 from helping, or he can take care of the bishop on d6. But he can't stop both, and he can't do anything about the queen. Moving the rook from f1 doesn't help, so it's mate in no more than 3 moves here. He can play h3, queen h3, and then I made him next move. Or actually, yeah, 2 more moves at most. Okay, pardon me. However, bishop takes f3 is playable. So I was under the impression that I was just winning here, but he's got, after bishop h2 check, king h1, queen h4, the defensive resource, knight to g5. And, of course, if I just retreat the bishop, he plays knight to h3. Well, if I play queen takes g5, he has bishop g4. So, it's not an outright win here. I'm better, but not winning. Bishop to e5 check, knight h3, and here I can either play knight f6 or knight to h2. Okay, if knight f6, rook f to c1, takes, and then g3. And he's able to just hold everything together here. So I'm better after queen to g5. I have ideas like h5, h4, and since material's even, there's no question about who stands better, but it may not be that big of an advantage. Although I would certainly take my position. Another try is knight to h2, but then he has queen to e4. So takes, and now because he's threatening bishop takes e5, and with check at that, and if I play bishop takes e5, actually there, yeah, I wonder. I suppose just king h2. Yeah, then he's got 2 pieces for the rook. So I have to play knight f3, and then here material is just even. I've got my bishop on d7 should prove better than his knight from h3, but still, this is close to even. So really the best is knight f6, but even there, he's holding on. So it wasn't quite a win after all, to my chagrin. Anyway, he didn't do that, and his best move here is probably rook f to d1. And after this, I'm not even better, probably. Okay, I could try knight to c4, but then after knight f3, takes, queen f6, and I've got all this pressure, but no way to convert it into anything. So for instance, h3, check, I take, he takes, and now my bishop on d7 is loose, so I can't just take on c3. And here, white might be a little bit better with 2 knights for a rook and a pawn, and a very good square on d4. Perhaps I should instead play queen takes g5, but you can take this guy, and then after bishop to f5 or bishop to c6, maybe. Well, I certainly have good compensation, but no knockout blow. That's for sure. All right. Actually, I'm wondering now about queen h4. Oh no, because then he just plays bishop g4, and the queen will cover f2. So then bishop g4, knight takes g4, h3, if nothing else, and maybe he can even take the bishop. Okay, so no wins there. Anyway, the game he played bishop takes g4, which I thought was forced. Knight g4, knight f3, bishop c6. And now, here too, I was thinking during the game that after e4, f5, he would be in serious trouble. But it turns out that this is not fatal either, because after rook a to e1, I play bishop takes e4, yes, but now I'm pinned. So he plays queen to e2. And if bishop f3, he can grab on e7. Okay, and of course I can't play bishop h2 because I have to have something to recapture the queen with. So I've looked at some various moves. I think I've looked at rook c3 tricks and other things, and it just seems that there's nothing better probably than rook h to e8. Black is fine, but again, not better, not winning. Maybe an easier position to play, but objectively not one that's advantageous. Well, Rand instead played queen to f5, and here I was very happy because now after bishop takes f3, which I played, if he played g takes f3, okay, which way do I capture on h2? Trick question. Neither way. Queen h4. And it's the same trick as I showed you guys earlier from this position with knight g to e4, knight f3, g takes, queen h4. The funny thing, or maybe the sad thing, is that when I was looking at this position, I was calculating this, I don't know, back here I guess, somewhere around here. I spent several minutes thinking, what do I do? Which way do I capture? I looked at knight h2 and tried to work out, does my knight get trapped and all of that, and maybe do I play rook c4 or rook c6 after knight h2 in some position. And then I realized, oh, you dunce. You just play queen h4. So that decides. So in the game he played queen f3, I played knight h2. And actually here he could still get a little counterplay with queen d5, and then knight to b5. But still, this more or less neutralizes it, and I should be able to go on to win this. Well, in the game he played queen h5, and now it was just easy. Takes, rook takes, queen e5. And he played on for a while, but there was really nothing to be done, and it was a very easy win from here. Okay, so that was the round 5 game. Now we'll look at my game from round 4, and this had plenty of adventures. So this was against Matt Wilbur, who's a strong young guy. I don't know, I think 17 years old, rated in the low to mid 2100s, and yeah, he was actually doing very well. I think he was 3-0 at this point in the tournament. Well, in the it's a team tournament, but still, he was 3-0. He had beaten Angelo Young in the first round. Of course, Young was not playing very well at all. Young, for those of you who haven't heard of him, is a strong Filipino IM who's been living in Chicago for a long time. But in this event, he played really badly. He lost 3 games, drew 2, and won none. So, okay, Wilbur beating him on this occasion probably wasn't as impressive as it might be on other days, but still, Matt was having a very good tournament, and it was clearly a good opponent. All right, so I had white, and I decided to try out this isolated pawn approach that Yevseyev recommends in his book, Fighting the French: A New Concept, that came out last year. So c5, c3, knight c6, knight g to f3, bishop e7, castles, and here, okay, and this could have occurred on the preceding moves as well. Black can take all the center pawns, and you get to a position like this where what we've done is transposed into kind of a Nimzo Indian or a Queen's Gambit accepted style of position instead. And it's certainly okay for black, but this isn't the typical thing that French players like or know. So aside from its objective merits, it's also not a bad practical choice. Alright, so my opponent decided to avoid that and castle. Now here I knew e5 was the move that Yevseyev recommended, although I hadn't really studied it in any great detail, but I kind of knew the basic idea was to do something like this, and then just to continue his variations a bit. So takes, f6, takes, knight to g3. Okay, and the d pawn is still safe, obviously, because of knight takes d4, I trade knights, and then I have bishop h7 check, and the queen on d4 is hanging. So this is kind of an elementary trick, but if you've never seen it before, you got to see it the first time, and hopefully it's not one of your games. And then queen takes on d4 is simply winning, of course. So, two question marks. So the moves for black here are both designed to avoid that tactical trick. So black can either play king h8 or g6, and in both cases, white generally retreats the bishop back to c2 to protect the pawn on d4. And play goes on from here, and the battle is roughly revolving around black's hopes for counterplay on the f-file and the e5 square. So if white can keep e5 securely blockaded, he'll have very good chances for an advantage. If black can successfully unleash e5 at some moment, then he'll have a very dangerous initiative. Okay, well, be that as it may, it's not the way the game went. So here I decided instead to play d takes c5, thinking that that following up with e5 afterwards could be quite interesting. And I'd also calculated a fun variation, and so I'll put you guys to this challenge here. So calculate the following: d takes c5, d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes c5, and now try to figure out if white has anything good from that position, anything special over there. So that's a good exercise. You'll definitely want to stop the recording for a while and calculate that out as best as you can. Okay, well, let's have a look. So de, knight e4, takes. Now, if he plays queen takes d1 first and then takes on c5, against this I intended to play bishop takes c6 and then knight to e5 with the point that if he plays bishop to b7, he just loses. Not rook to d7, because he just puts a rook on the d file and I can't take the bishop because of mate on d1, but knight to d7. And here if he plays rook f to d8, then I have bishop to g5, and this wins. f6, knight c5, and this guy's hanging too. Alright, so that's a little bit of what can happen on queen takes d1. But on bishop takes c5, does white have anything really good here? Well, what white can do, of course, is play a move like bishop to f4, and white has a very pleasant edge at this point. His bishops are both very good, and there's more space. I definitely like white here. White is absolutely for choice at this point. But the key question, of course, is what about bishop takes h7 check? Alright, well, king takes h7, knight g5, and it certainly looks as if king to g6 is the normal move here. And this I had calculated out. Queen to g4, okay, f5 for instance, queen g3. Now, probably as best as bishop to d6, and then after f4, king f6. It's a pretty unclear position, but white has sufficient compensation for the pawn, for the piece. Pardon me. My main line was king to f6, and then I realized that I have this nice resource here with knight to e4 check, taking advantage of the fact that the bishop is unprotected on c5. If the king moves, I take the bishop. And of course, the other half of the story is if f takes e4, I have bishop to g5 check, winning the queen. And although black will have three minor pieces for the queen, white has a pawn for it. Black's kingside structure is very bad, and so white should be clearly better here, at least. However, this is a mistake, this sacrifice, because here king to g8 can be played. The main point being that on queen to h5, which would normally be just peachy keen, black has queen to d3, and it's a big oops. So it's easy to miss that because you're so used to the typical situation where it's a French and black's pawn is on d5, and that generally makes this kind of defense impossible. But that pawn got exchanged off, and so it is possible, and here white is simply lost. So, going back to here, white would have to play bishop to f4 with a pleasant edge. Alright, so instead of d takes e4, my opponent played bishop takes c5. I played e5, and here knight to d7 would have been the normal move, and the game goes on. I could play rook e1 or queen e2 or knight to b3 or b4. A lot of options. Which one is best, I don't know at this point. But he played knight to g4, which was very interesting. And for a while I was kind of regretting not having played e5 on move 8, when knight to g4 would have been not a very good move. So here, what do? Well, I played knight to b3. And of course, if he goes back to b6, then I play bishop takes h7 check. And I thought maybe you could consider bishop f2, or knight f2 first, rook f2, takes, and then f6. So that struck me as interesting as well, but I didn't really think that could be that dangerous. I mean, this isn't exactly a Dilworth variation. His bishop on c8 is passive, so I thought I should be okay there. And indeed, he played the normal move, bishop back to e7. Now, here, I considered, among other things, knight to g5, which is kind of a fun move. So if he plays bishop g5, then queen g4, takes, knight e5, takes, check, and here. And the question is whether I can maintain some kind of control over the dark squares in the center. I don't know. I'm not sure how strong this is. The other move that's interesting here is f5. And now the key line is knight takes h7. The point being that if he plays king h7, I have queen takes g4. So if this, I have that, taking advantage of the pin. So rook f7 though, and now, hey, what is my knight doing? He can't come out. But, at least for the moment, he can't take, so I can play f4, threatening knight to g5. Okay, he can play knight h6, knight g5, takes, and then the knight springs back out to g4. And this is still kind of murky, right? I mean, I could get my pawn to g6, maybe h3, knight e5, queen h5, and on knight takes d3, I play g6. So who knows? It's a very interesting position. And again, this is just hypothetical stuff that I had calculated during the game. Anyway, I played queen to e2, so I chose the normal move. My opponent thought rook to e1. I wasn't quite as sure about this move, but it's what I didn't like about this was I was worried about f6 at some point, and I was afraid that maybe f2 would be underprotected later on. So queen to e2, f6, takes, h3. Yeah, I mean, here I have to be really careful. I mean, I'm in danger of maybe getting overrun. I mean, if you can play e5 and start those guys rolling down the board, then I could be in big trouble. So I have to keep those center pawns blockaded if I can. So h3, knight g to e5, takes, and now I'd like to keep my bishop. I mean, I even apologized to my bishop for playing f4, but I had to do it, because if bishop c2, I thought knight c4, and the pressure on the b2 pawn is kind of annoying. Okay, knight c5, queen b6, and it's annoying, the pressure. So decided I better play f4. Okay, now if he plays knight c6, then I'm happy. I get to keep my bishop, and I have something of a blockade. So he took, I took, bishop d7, bishop e3. And now another interesting moment. I mean, now my idea, what I want to do is just blockade the center to death. I mean, what I would really love is something like this. Bishop goes to d4. I put a rook on e1. Maybe the queen goes to e3. I play bishop to e5 and knight to d4. And, it's some kind of a Nimzovician dream where I just blockade these dark squares to an absolute pulp. But, okay, it takes a few moves to do that. Now, black has a few things that he could do. One, of course, thing that he should do is try to get this bishop on d7 to play an important role in the game. Alright, so one idea is to play queen to c7. And here, okay, actually this is a little bit of kind of a pass move, so let me come back to that. First, queen to e8. Okay, so now queen to d2. And here, okay, bishop to b5, rook f2, bishop h4, rook f3, queen g6, f5. This was kind of a weird position, and I wasn't sure what was going on here at all, but probably black is okay. Well, okay, yeah, because rook f5, queen f5, knight d4, he has queen to d3. So f5 probably doesn't work. Also queen to g6, and this is kind of, actually this is a position that I would like. So here I think white is in good shape. It's opposite colored bishops, but my bishop is working and his isn't, and the pressure on the long diagonal, my pressure against g7 is very serious. Okay, another idea is queen to c7. And it's kind of a funny move. I mean, it looks like it just doesn't do anything, but, I mean, it develops, but what else besides that? But the point is that here, all of a sudden, I'm kind of clumsy. I mean, he's threatening bishop to b5, skewering the house over there. You know, it's just fortunate that my king isn't on g0, and then it would be everybody. So I have to play knight to d4, but now e5. And here, the queen on c7 is doing something. All right, knight f3, and now d4 is more tricky business. So, okay, the position is, as you see, is getting kind of out of control here. I don't know if I would have played rook a to e1. I'd probably play queen to d2 as in the game. Well, the game was a6. The threat's obvious, and again, I decided to just sidestep all this monkey business with queen to d2. Now he plays queen to c7. Okay, well, I'd like to play rook a to e1, but then bishop to h4 is the problem. So on this, bishop h4. Now, I can't play bishop to f2 because of rook takes f4, or maybe queen takes f4. Maybe this can be played as well. And what else do I do? If I play rook e2, I walk into bishop to b5. So that's the problem. So I played bishop to d4. He played rook to f7. And here again, I'd like to play rook a to e1. Doggone it. But again, it's not quite so simple. So here too, I think, so bishop to h4 again? I believe so. Yeah, bishop h4. And bishop f2 is met again by taking on f4. And if rook e2, bishop b5. If rook e3, f4 hangs. If I go to e5, at the very least, he can go back to f6. So no progress there. So I play queen to e3. And now he tightens the screws here with rook a to f8. Well, I'd like to again play rook a to e8, but you guessed it, bishop to h4. Actually, wait, let me think this time. So here, if bishop to h4, there's g3. So what was I worried about this time? Oh, yeah, of course, sorry. Just bishop takes d4, and then f4 is hanging. Right, that's the problem. And if I play instead g3 here, well, now I have to worry about e5 tricks. So I'm not sure about this position, but I think even here it works, because if fe5, bishop h3. Although maybe I'm wrong. Okay, bishop f1, rook f1. Yeah, now this looks okay for me. So let me think. So takes fe5. Okay, bishop g5 doesn't look like it should work. Okay, maybe I could do this. Oh, okay, right. Takes first. Let's say knight e4. Now e5. Yeah. So, right, h3 is again the problem, and I don't think I'm too happy here. Although maybe I'm not catastrophically unhappy either. Let's see. Takes. Alright, now bishop h3, takes. Sorry, with the rook. Maybe this is okay for me, although I'm not sure how to evaluate this position. I mean, the biggest problem is just that I'm playing without a king. If I can put my king on e3, I'm probably reasonably happy. Maybe I can play knight e2, knight f4. Knight e2, maybe he plays rook f3. Alright, so this is possible. It's not maybe as bad as I thought it was during the game, but I'm not sure it's great either. So I played bishop to e5 with a little bit of a heavy heart, because I really wanted to keep e5 open to pieces and not have a pawn sitting there. So takes and takes, and yeah, here he played h6, which was an okay waiting move. I mean, could also play bishop to b5 or queen to c4, but we'll move on with this. So h6, and I wanted to get rid of the rooks here. And now he played a5, which was a good move too. So he's playing actively. He's trying to get his bishop into play, and it makes sense. And I can't. Well, I have to worry about a4, and I can't play knight to d4 because of queen c4 check, and queen takes a2. So I got my king out of the way. And now if a5, actually I'd play knight to c5, most likely. Alright, so he played bishop to e8, trying to activate the bishop. So I played knight to c5, trying to prevent it. Queen e7. And here I take a little bit of a risk, because I'm really trying to win this game. Both just because I want to try to win in general, but also it seemed like it was needed for the team at that point. So I played b4, really pushing a little bit. And the reason why this is a little bit risky is that I'm giving him a passed d-pawn, and in some variations this could be really a problem. So b6, knight to d3. He could trade pawns first on b4, that would come to the same thing. So takes and takes, and here we have, well, I thought at the time was a critical moment, and maybe objectively it's not quite as critical as I had thought, but, well, it's interesting. So here, he played bishop to g6, but I thought bishop to b5 is what he would do. And at this point I was probably going to play a3. Okay, and so now, for instance, though, takes, and queen to h4, and I have to be careful here. I mean, his queen is actually really active. The threat of queen to e1 check is annoying. And if I play, for instance, queen to d2, then he plays queen to e4. Or if I play queen to e3, he plays d4. So probably I should play queen to c3. And here, probably the position is about equal. Although I still feel a little bit nervous about the game. But at least the threat of queen to c8 check probably means that I should be fine here. An alternative is knight to f4. And now he can play g5, knight h5, and queen takes b4. And here, this is going to get kind of furry. I'd like to play queen takes b6, but then he's got queen e1 check, and then queen takes e5 check. So that, again, makes his play reasonable. So I think after bishop to b5, he's in decent shape. I don't think he's worse. Well, he played bishop to g6, and now, of course, a3, bishop d3, queen d3, queen h4 would be the same thing. But now knight to f4 is a better option for me. This is what I played, and it changes the nature of the position. So for a long time here, the game has really been about me trying to dominate his bishop and trying to give him, or show that this bishop is a bad bishop, and that his pawns are kind of weak, and that I can just essentially have my way with him on the dark squares. Well, now the game just becomes very, very tactical from here essentially to the end. So I played knight f4, queen takes b4, knight takes e6. And now maybe here on the next move he should have played queen to e4. I could play queen b6, but again, then he could play queen e1 and queen e5 with at least a draw. So I would trade, and this ending should be a draw. I guess I'm probably a little bit better, but black's got to be able to draw this. So he checked, and now again he could go for queen to e4. But he played queen takes a2, I played queen b6, and he played bishop to e4. And now, at first I thought that maybe this just had to be a draw. So, the simplest draw is, of course, is queen to d8 check, king h7, knight f8, king g6, or g8, pardon me, knight e6, and just back and forth forever. I guess I could try to be cute with knight to g6, since king f7, knight h8 is mate. I was thinking this was mate, but it's not even mate, because he's got this. Is there a mate here? It looks like there ought to be one, but I'm not seeing it. So like queen d6, there's queen e8. Maybe there's something there. But anyway, knight e6 is, he can always go back, of course. So he can always go back to h7. Anyway, knight e6, and he can't go out to f7 because queen d7 is bound to be a win. Alright, so instead of going for this draw, though, right, again, knight e6, king h7, I realized, okay, I can at least try a bit with knight to f4. And maybe I'm winning here, although I thought during the game that it should be a draw. Now, black has two ways to go here. Queen to d2 and g5. And on g5, I had thought that it should be a draw, but I'm sure if I had kept playing and I was going to play it out, that I would have seen what I should do, but at least my initial assessment was wrong. So on g5, okay, check here, and my initial thought was that I just have to repeat, but of course I have knight to g6 check, and he can't keep the mate threat. So takes, and now the bad news for black is that he can't defend h6. So he can play queen to d2, protecting g5 and threatening queen f4. So check, and now, okay, king to h8 is a mistake because now I just check and play e6. Queen f4, takes, h4, and his king can't deal with my split passers, while my king can come back in time to stop the d5 pawn. But if he plays king to f8, then after queen f6 check, king e8, here e6 is a draw, although there are some interesting variations here. So e6, queen f4, takes, h4, king e7, king h3, and now, okay, black to move and draw here. So another little exercise for you guys. Okay, let's take a look at king takes e6, the most natural move. King g4, king e5, h5, d4, and white to move and win at this point. Well, if you said h6, you're mistaken. It's natural, but it doesn't win. King f4, king g6, king e4, takes, king g5, and it's just a routine opposition draw. King e3, king g4, king f2. White saves the pawn, but as long as black knows the opposition, then of course a player of his caliber would know that. Backwards and forwards in his sleep, it's a draw. But instead of h6, king to g5 is winning. d3, so he queens first, but I queen best. The point being that I'm going to have a check on the e file, and then a check on the d file, and now there's no opposition. The pawn just goes straight up and queens. So, going back to this position, king takes e6, lost. But black could draw with d4. King g4, d3, king f3, now king e6. And here it's an easy draw. And even I could draw this against Carlsen. And so could you. Okay, so that's what happens on e6 here. However, white does have a winning move at this point. And it's h4. Alright, the point of this is that after g takes h4, now on e6, there's no queen to f4 check. And black is hopelessly lost against the threat of queen f7 check, and then e7 and e8 queen. So, queen to e1, this still keeps it interesting, threatening queen h4, e1, h4, e1, and so on. Alright, white plays queen takes g5, queen e4, and now black has his own d-pawn to run up the board. And, okay, this is, of course, a computer-generated line, this particular one. And here, according to the table base, white wins, or mates in 20 moves. Alright, h4 I'm sure I would have seen, but that I would have played the queen ending perfectly, that's a different story altogether. Who knows? But the bottom line is that I think white is winning by force even after g5. After queen to d2, white is again, I think, winning. I think, let me see if that's correct. Yeah, I believe it is a win here. And here I did play it accurately. So I played queen to b8 check, which is the right move here. Queen to d8 check fails. And see if you can figure out why. That's what my opponent had expected, but it's actually not correct. Okay, well, let's see what happens. Queen to d8 check, king h7, queen f8. This was the idea. And now, actually he's got a couple of good moves here. So he could play queen to c3, and on e6, queen to e5, and after e7, bishop to g6. And there's no way for me to break this pin that doesn't allow something else like perpetual check. So this holds the game. He can also play queen f2, and after e6, now not bishop takes g2 because of queen f5 check, and then queen f7 check, and knight takes g2. This was a variation my opponent had seen during the game. And it's a nice line. Unfortunately for me, fortunately for him, had we gone down this route, black has a better move, and it's a remarkable one. Instead of bishop takes g2, black can actually play h5. And the main idea is that on e7, then h4, queen, and then this is just perpetual. Okay, white can try to resist with queen to f7. And now on h4, check, and queen to g5. Okay, but now it's kind of randomized. Alright, so d4, e7, queen check, take, king f7. Okay, if knight g7, this would normally be winning for white, except that the knight is trapped. And so this is a draw. And knight takes d4. Certainly I can try from here, but this should be a draw as well. And, as I mentioned before, instead of queen f2, simply queen c3 should hold the game straight away. So my move in this on this occasion was correct. Queen to b8 check, king h7, and now e6. So the knight's protected, and the pawn advances, and my queen is ready in some cases to go to the beautiful e5 square. Alright, and my idea here is that if he plays g5 at this point, now I throw in this check. That was the key idea. See, I don't play e7 right away, because now, of course, g takes f4, and I lose. I make a queen, and he gives mate. But I throw in this check first, and now the king goes wherever. Let's say here. Okay, here I play queen f7, of course, and then e7, and this wins. So he played bishop takes g2, I played knight takes, and now he played queen to e2. Okay, so here again, what should white do to win this? So at first glance, it looks like this could be rather difficult. So for example, if I swap my e6 pawn for his d5 pawn, you know, let's say queen d6, he plays d4, I play queen takes d4, he plays queen takes e6. Winning the subsequent ending is going to be kind of difficult, I think. I mean, maybe it's a win. I'm not positive even if it is, but if it is, it doesn't seem like it should be an easy one. So I'd like to find something a bit more tidy if I can. And I believe I succeeded. So what I found was this. Queen to b1 check, and then queen to e1. Kind of a funny sequence, especially since after queen to b5 I played queen to e5. So we go back to here. All this little tour just to get my queen to e5. And the funniest thing is that I should have completed the circuit here. So we played queen to c6, and now I missed queen to b8 check and then e7. So shame on me, especially because the aesthetics of this is nice. I mean, so it would be 4 consecutive moves where my queen goes from b8 to b1 to e5 and then back to b8 again, and then I promote. Okay, the point of this though, so we should go back to here, is that if he trades, I have knight takes, king f8, knight to d3, king e7, knight c5, and he can't win the knight. I mean, if he plays king d6, I simply ignore it, since obviously if he takes, I promote my e-pawn. But meanwhile, what else does he do? If he plays g5, then I just play king to g4. And again, what can he do? Okay, let's say d4, king h5, d3, takes, here, and he cannot exchange off the last pawn, so I win. That's the basic idea. In this ending, I'm willing to trade my e-pawn for his d-pawn, since in almost every case, well, or I would say in every case with correct play, I can prevent him from swapping off the last pawn. Alright, so anyway, queen to b5, queen e5, queen c6, and alas, I missed this nice geometric win. And it's strange, because I was looking for all these ways to do things like that, but that one escaped me. But I had calculated also beforehand that knight to e3 was winning, and indeed it is. So he played d4, I played knight f5, and now we have a funny little sequence, so a little Botvinnik Capablanca redux here. So check, and of course I don't take on h6, although maybe I'm winning there too, but there's just no point. So here, queen b7, and okay, at this point the goal is just to get him to resign rather than to look for a forced mate. So from here, queen f6 check and knight f5 mates by force pretty quickly. And I actually did see this idea, but I decided, alright, I'm tired, I don't want to mess with anything. I don't want any little accidents to occur, so let's just do this the easiest possible way. And I play queen to h8 check with the idea of queen g7 and queen takes b7 next, and so he resigned at this point. So I thought it was a pretty interesting and rich game, a lot of content there, both some strategic battles going on and some neat tactics, and we went through all phases of the game, so it was interesting, I think, from the opening through the middle game to the ending. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and this completes my look at my games from the U.S. Amateur Team Tournament. Hope you liked them. Next time, probably, although not absolutely, but probably we'll get back to the Quick Rui series. Okay, thanks a lot. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.